2021 NHL Draft. 32 teams get their chance to pick their future.
The Detroit Red Wings select.
Is it a center?
Michael Rasmussen, Joe Veleno, with his first National Hockey League goal.
A sniper?
Lucas Raymond.
Philip Zadina.
Zadina scores!
Or shock the whole room?
The Detroit Red Wings select Moritz Seider.
The only question left to ask is, who's next?
Who's next? That's right. Welcome to the 2021 Detroit Red Wings Draft Party presented by Meijer here at Little Caesars Arena in the Chevy Plaza. You just heard Ken Kal asking you who's next, and that's what we're going to talk about. Of course, I'm here with Ken Kal, Art Regner, and the legend Mickey Redmond. How lucky are we to be joined by Mick today? Am I right?
Let's go. Come on, Detroit. Let's get fired up. It's a draft. Go Wings! Woo!
I want that kind of energy because on ESPN2 at 8 p.m. and during our draft pick, you guys will be broadcasted for the whole nation to see. So I want you guys to go crazy and just give us your best Detroit Red Wings chance because you guys are going to be on ESPN2, so we want to see it all. So a lot to talk about. Obviously, today is the draft. I mean, the fun begins here. The season starts now. So the Detroit Red Wings picking at 6 and 23 in the first round today, but I do want to start talking about the first 3 draft picks, so I'm going to go down the line and see who you guys think are going to be 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll make our way up to 6. So, Ken, I'm going to start with you.
Well, as we saw in the video, Carly, first of all the fans, thanks for coming out. It's great to have you here. It really is. Woo! Again, you don't have to go too far, I don't think. Just about a half hour or 40-minute drive down to Ann Arbor, and I think Owen Power is going to go first overall, and I think he's the consensus #1 pick. After that, this is so different than it was a year ago when you could probably identify who was going to go 1 through 5. This year, it's a little bit of a crapshoot, but you've got Buffalo taking Owen Power. That's what I see going first overall. Then you've got Seattle and Anaheim going 2nd and 3rd. And this is where it gets a little bit strange because you don't know what the needs are of these teams. I think Anaheim, who's picking 3rd, they need some offense. They're probably going to go with a center iceman. I think another Michigan player, maybe Matty Beniers, will be that type of player, and I think Seattle might go with a winger by the name of Dylan Genther. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen. I'm never right when I pick. Maybe this year it'll change. I don't know. Art, what about you?
Well, I think, thank God, if you're a University of Michigan fan, that Buffalo has the first pick, because Owen Power will definitely not go into that cesspool right away. He's going back to Ann Arbor. That is excellent news. I think second. I still think it's going to be Matty Beniers. I just think he's just too good in his leadership capabilities. I know there's question about whether he can score enough goals or not, which they were saying about Joe Veleno too. Veleno went from 15th overall in his draft class, and thank God he did, down to 30 for the Red Wings because there was a question of whether he would be able to score at the NHL level. That's kind of what they're saying about Matty Beniers. I'm not worried about it. That kid's going to be a scorer. He's a leader. I said it on my mock draft. He's a future captain of the Seattle Kraken. And then I think third, and I agree with Kenny, Anaheim needs a lot, but they really need goal scoring. I think the most NHL-ready player in this draft who is an offensive dynamo is William Eklund, and I know he's been rumored to be a player that Detroit really likes, and I'm sure they do. I think Eklund goes in the #3 spot, and I'll throw in a bonus pick at 4. I think it's a marketer's dream that you draft Luke Hughes, who is definitely going to Michigan, by the way. He's not going to go to New Jersey right away. Team him up with his brother. You have the Hughes boys back together. I think it's great. I think it's definitely great. Those are my 4. I do have a 5th one as well, but
we'll save that for later.
A lot of things have gone on in the league right now. That's what's really crazy. There have been a lot of trades today, which I really think is going to impact what the teams ahead of Detroit do as far as what their needs are. So it's going to be really, really interesting. I'm really looking forward to this draft.
I just got a call from Buffalo. You're gone. You're gone. You called him a cesspool?
Yeah, well,
Art doesn't hold back, Mick.
Well, hey, I'm prone to exaggeration there, Mickey.
What's going on?
I'm prone to exaggeration,
Yeah, but what do we get in return? That's what I want to know. Do we get a bag of pucks?
A bag of pucks, yeah.
Hey,
how are you, gang? Good to see you out here without a mask on. Way to go, everybody. It's good to have you back. We'll be looking forward to having you in the building this year. It was a very, very lonely season without you guys in the stands, believe me, and the players more than anybody felt it. So we can't wait for training camp in Traverse City and get everybody back there without a mask on. Let's rock and roll. We're ready to go.
Yeah.
As far as your picks on these drafts, I mean,
Yes.
really? You guys can really pick those things?
Mickey, I'm never right.
I was doing some homework today, or trying to, and there is not I don't think an Austin Matthews in this draft or a Connor McDavid, a generational kind of player, but it is pretty consensus now that Buffalo's moved Ristolainen, their big defenseman. They're probably going to take Owen Power, and good for Michigan if he's going to return there for another year. He looks like a dandy. First time for a long time you're going to have 3 players from one college like Michigan that may go in the top 10. Who knows?
Right.
But pretty good stuff. But outside of number 1 being Power, I'm not sure that I made a list here. You got Eklund, you got Kent Johnson of Michigan. Watch out for McTavish in Peterborough, my hometown. Craig McTavish's son. He's got hockey in his blood. He can play both ends of the ice. He's a big kid. He can score. He can check. He's going to go. I would bet he's going in the top 5.
Well, Mickey, and you make up a good point, because I think if you look at the Red Wings and needs, and I know Steve said that everybody, they need all over the board, but they're really kind of thin up the middle at center ice, and Mason McTavish is a center. I would not be surprised if he's available at 5 if the Red Wings go that way.
I don't know that he'll be available. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
You got Buffalo, Seattle, Anaheim, and Jersey, and then Columbus going before Detroit at number 6. So, you know what? It might be good to see him if he's there. But you're right about the Swedish kid, Eklund. Excellent skater, apparently so. Lucas Raymond will be in training camp. Seider will be in training camp. But go ahead, Kenny.
Well, I was just going to tell you that there were some moves prior to us going on the air here in front of everybody, and Columbus, they might need a defenseman now,
right?
Because Seth Jones was traded to Chicago.
He was? I didn't hear that.
For Adam Boquist.
Okay, on my way down, they traded him.
So
maybe
their needs change right now, and they need a defenseman.
Exactly.
And the rumor is also going to be a number 1 pick going also to Columbus, and I believe and it's this year's draft, Chicago's pick, which is like 13th or 14th. I think the Blue Jackets could have 4 number 1 picks in this draft, if I remember correctly. So it's going to be wild. I mean, hang on, as Mickey says, hang on, gang, get a few ginger ales. It's going to be a wild ride.
Well, the one thing about the draft, at the best normal years, your draft can be a bit of a crapshoot with an 18-year-old trying to find out what they're going to be when they're 22. Even more so this year, there'll be probably more surprises than ever. The bottom line is we've drafted 6, 3 years out of 4. And we got 3 pretty good players going. I'm sure no matter who he picks this year, it's going to be a player that we're going to see here very shortly, because Seider and Raymond will be in Traverse City, and I think they're going to be on the Red Wings come October.
I love that you say that, because that is something we talked about. I remember not last year, but the year before that, when we were all here in the Chevy Plaza and we heard Moritz Seider's name being called. Even Moritz Seider was surprised by that. We were all kind of like, Oh, wow, okay. Very interesting. But then, of course, in the Steve Yzerman fashion, Moritz Seider blew everyone out of the water.
Right.
Defenseman of the year. I mean, you look at someone like that, and, we don't all get to go out to Europe, Canada, wherever, go around the league go around the different leagues, I should say, to see all these prospects. So we don't know what they know. So that's why it's so hard.
Right. You don't know, because nobody knew Quinn Hughes was going to be Quinn Hughes as he is today when they drafted him 3 years ago. There's no way. But bottom line is that's where the crapshoot comes in. And as long as we're part of this rebuild, then it's a good thing for an Original 6 team. And it's going to be a good night. Tonight is only the draft for round 1, and tomorrow all day is 2 through 7. So they'll go through 32 picks tonight.
Yep,
one of the things, though, when you look at Steve Yzerman, and we mentioned Moritz Seider, is the fact that sometimes he likes to think outside the box.
Right.
And like you mentioned, when he took Mo Seider, it surprised everybody. So here we are looking at our list. Who's to say that he might pick somebody we didn't talk about?
I know I made flashcards last night, and I feel like they're all just going to go to waste, because you never know with Stevie Y what he's going to do. But I do know that one thing that we do need in this organization is more centermen. So for me, I'm going to give it away and say my pick, as we were talking about before, Mick, I know you like him, Mason McTavish. I just think he'd be a dynamic player for the Detroit Red Wings, and I think that that's something that the Detroit Red Wings need, are some young centermen outside of Dylan Larkin. So I'm going Mason McTavish. I hope he's not taken before 6 because I'm rolling with it. I have a lengthy flashcard here that I could tell you guys about Mason McTavish, so I hope he does pick him, because I did a lot of research on him. But I do want to go down the line and get yours. Mick, I'll start with you.
Eklund has really good speed. He's a centerman. They say he's got some Zetterberg in him. That's not a bad thing, obviously.
No, not at
but
all.
if you got a choice between McTavish or Eklund, I mean, they all can't be gone.
Right.
Somebody's going to be good. I just made a top 10 list, and to anybody's guess, Power obviously has got the nod for number 1. Benyers, Dylan Gentner. Now, he could go to Columbus, defenseman. Also, Arvidsson out of Sweden is a high-end defenseman, a good skater as well. So Columbus might take a run at him. Eklund, the Zetterberg thing. Brant Clark, he's a pretty good hockey player too at 8 or 9. Again, Kent Johnson and Lucius, another one. So there's a lot of guys in the top 10 that may not go in the top 10, but there's a lot of guys also between 10 and 15 or 20 that might drop down, like Seider did 2 years ago. So that's what makes the draft night fun.
100%, that it always does. And I know we were talking a little bit about Joe Veleno and how he was slated to go a little earlier in the draft, but lucky enough for the Detroit Red Wings, he went a little later, proved to be a goal scorer.
Well, you got 22, right, as well. 22nd pick, as well as number 6. So who's to say we can't get a pretty good player at number 22 as well? Because of the lack of ability to see these players because of COVID, there's a lot of diamonds in the rough out there.
Absolutely.
For sure. And Draper, Maltby, and all those guys have done the best they can to try to figure out where are they and how soon can we get them here.
And if you want a general manager who seems to have a real good feel for those diamonds in the rough, and look at what he did also in Tampa, Steve Yzerman is definitely might be the guy that you want, overseeing the first few picks. It's interesting. I was in Vancouver for the draft, and and when it's at an arena like at Little Caesars. First day of the draft, it's going to be packed. It's sold out. I mean, everybody's there. All the teams are sitting on the ice, and they all have like 32 tables now, and they're all there. When they announced Mo Seider, and I've never heard this. I don't know what I still call it GM Place. I'm not sure what GM Place holds, like 19,000. But there was a collective gas in the crowd, like nobody in their right mind, and it was 19,000 people gasping at the same time is pretty loud. They knew he was good. I mean, Seider kept moving up the board in this draft year. By the time the draft came around, he was considered 14th or something. So to move up to 6 is still pretty significant, but it was just kind of funny. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that Steve did it. And he did, and obviously, as Mickey said, Mo Seider's in Detroit, so I think that obviously a good pick.
I think Kenny said that Yzerman has a tendency to think outside the box sometimes. How about a lot? He's very close to the vest, and he goes about his business very quietly and very effectively. So we're going to probably get a bit of a surprise again tonight. Who knows?
Carley, I think we should talk about some of the needs on this Red Wing team now, because obviously the Red Wings are looking, whoever they draft now, they're going to look at this player 2-3 years down the road. I don't think whoever they draft today will make it into the National Hockey League this spring, but some of the needs, I guess we go down the panel here, but what do you think some of the needs are?
Like I said, just at center. I think we're too thin at center, and I think we don't have enough quick and pure goal scorers, which I think Mason McTavish, could really add to this organization. He's a quick and pure goal scorer. He's good lateral edge work, and then he's just quick and solid on the puck, and I think that's something that the Detroit Red Wings need, because when we've been looking at them the past couple of years, we've seen that the Red Wings don't really slap the puck when they get it on their sticks. They like to pass. So what we need is someone who's just whipping the pucks at the net left and right and just scoring some of those. Like we say, hey, if you pepper the goalie with shots, some are bound to go in. So I do think we need a good dynamic forward. I think that's what the Detroit Red Wings need, because we're adding some veterans to the blue line, because I know we had a lot of young guys on our defensive end of things, but it's good to see Steve Yzerman definitely playing around in the pool of National Hockey League players already ahead of the draft. Like we said, I know our not to give your number 6 draft pick away, because I think if you guys watch the Word on Woodward, you guys already know who it is.
Well, I want to say this, is that if you look at, Steve says they need a lot of needs, but they obviously need at center, and they need left-handed shooting defensemen. They've done pretty well in the draft, drafting right-handed shooting defensemen, and seem to have a nice little core that they're going to be able to get, everyday NHLers out of that core, led by Mo Sider. So I would look this way. I would think if left-handed defensemen, shooting defensemen, are their primary, if Luke Hughes falls, I think Luke Hughes it could be a candidate that would be difficult for Detroit to pass up on. I also think that Simon Edvinsson, who has been compared to Victor Hedman, but so is Owen Power, I think he would be pretty tough to. He's a big kid and he can skate. He's very fluid, very calm out there. I like what some of the scouting services say that he's so calm out there he could play the game in a rocking chair. So I think he's good. One forward that I would not sleep on that I think is really good, and I'm not saying because he's a Michigan guy, is Kent Johnson. He has an arsenal of moves, an arsenal of shots. And this could be somebody that Mel Pearson, obviously it's his coach, but said that 5 years from now he could be the best offensive player in this draft. They definitely need offense. But again, even though Steve traded for Nedeljkovic yesterday, I really think that goaltending is in short supply in the Detroit system. And if he's thinking really out of the box, or in my play, destroying the box completely, I would think that the guy that might be tough, he's 18 years old. He played in the Swedish Hockey League against men. Most of the guys we're talking about play against their peers.
Right.
Players that are really relatively about the same age as they are. Jesper Wallstedt played against men in the Swedish Hockey League, and at 18 years old, his goaltending statistics were phenomenal. So, even though Nedeljkovic was signed for 2 years, Wallstedt's 18. 2 years from now, he's 20. Does he come and go to GR and play a year? Is he ready to step in and maybe as a backup? If Nedeljkovic does well, I'm sure Steve will extend him. So I'm thinking, even though they traded for a really good goaltender yesterday, I'm not saying that Wallstedt is off the table yet. Until Steve, of course, says somebody else.
Right.
He might go in the top 10 for the first time since Henrik Lundqvist several years ago. But I'm not sold on that happening, Art. But
I know, no, I'm on an island here.
That's a nice way to put it, Mick.
Well, you got a paddle, so you can get out. Don't worry about it. I think that they're going to be fine with Nedeljkovic and Grice. He had a good second half. Bernier was leaving anyway with free agency. Right. So that deal, a little strange to me that they traded for Bernier and they didn't even own him. But anyway, the bottom line is that I think I'm in Carley's camp that they probably will be looking at forward position, the center position, because you've got Glendening staying there as your checking center, your face-off guy. Larkin, hopefully he's healthy enough to come back and be Dylan Larkin, have a good year. Then you got a couple of your centermen, Filppula and Nielsen are long in the tooth. So you've got to get some young centermen in here. Veleno may take that spot if he can get a short sample we had from him last year. But hopefully training camp, he's starts off good and does a good job, and boom, he's in the lineup as one of our centermen. So I think that's where they're going. None of it would surprise me, but I think that would be my top pick to what were we going to do. We're going for a high-end forward, highest we can get.
I couldn't agree more. And that's kind of why I like Mason McTavish. I know, Art, you were talking about Jesper Wallstedt playing against men. That's kind of like why I enjoy, and I think that McTavish would be a good fit in a couple years, because in the Switzerland League, he was playing against men as well.
Right, he did well, right.
Yeah, so when the problem with developing a player, I think, is like you said, a lot of time these young guys play with young guys. Like they play with, as you said, their peers. So a lot of these guys that we're looking at in the top 10, they've played against men. So that's why they'd be able to easily fit into the NHL and not just get thrown around like rag dolls.
Carley, you were talking about the center ice position. I agree. And I know, Mickey, you've played with a lot of really great center icemen. You've seen a lot of great center icemen. But all you have to do is look at the Red Wings over the years, and you have to be good down the middle. Your number 1 and number 2 center icemen have to be a big part of your team. And you look at Yzerman and Fedorov. You look at Datsuk and Zetterberg. You're not going to get those kind of players in a trade. You have to draft those players, develop them, cross your fingers, and hope one day they can be your top 2 center icemen.
Well, you had to remember that Datsuk was 171st, something like that, in the draft. If anybody had known he was any good, he would have been long gone before that.
Right.
But, we were way ahead of the curve back in those days. Lidstrom was 51st. A lot of those guys were way, way up in the draft, or down in the draft, if you will. But we really got it going in those days, but those days are gone. Everybody's got scouts all over the place, and those guys aren't slipping through the cracks like they used to anymore.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, now, as we said, we got everyone's pick at 6. No, we didn't get yours, Ken. And I think, Art tiptoed around it for 10 minutes, but then we finally got Jesper Wellstead.
I gave you 4 or 5. I'm going to be right. I'm going to hit on one of them.
As Art does.
Art's the master throwing a spaghetti against the wall. He'll give you 4 or 5 guys, and then he'll say, "Oh, I got the right guy." No, you know what? I kind of agree with Art and Mickey, and I would really personally, and again, I don't follow all these people, but from the things that I've seen video-wise and what I've read about some of these players, to me, a guy that runs on high RPMs and a guy that can be a real strong first-line winger on this team and be a number 1 guy on the power play is a guy by the name of William Eklund. And he really gets his motor going. He's not a big guy, but he's really dynamic. And if he's there at number 6, I think the Red Wings take him at number 6. The question is, as Mickey said, is he going to be there? Is somebody else going to nab him before? But that would be my pick, William Eklund. And I guess if the Red Wings need a scorer and they need a center iceman, they look at your pick, Carley. They look at McTavish.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what. The point being, excuse me, that who's going to pick before? You don't know what they're going to take. But
That's
you
exactly
can
it.
almost predict Buffalo to take Power.
Right.
I would say Seattle's looking at offense. They got a pretty good defensive core, starting with Giordano out of Calgary. So they need some high-end offense. And if they can get one of those forwards, whatever one's ready to play in the NHL right now, I think Seattle's going to go for him.
Right.
Whoever that might be. It might be Eklund.
It could be.
It could be Eklund, which then would maybe leave McTavish. But then you got Anaheim, New Jersey. Would they put the Hughes boys together? I'm not so sure. Luke is scheduled to go down at 8 or 9 in the top 10, maybe. Defenseman as well. San Jose, Columbus before us, probably going to go with a defenseman. That could be Edvinsson as well. He's a pretty good skating defenseman out of Sweden. So
And he's a left-handed defenseman.
Yeah.
Right, and with Seth Jones, even though they got Adam Boquist in the deal, who's a pretty good defenseman himself, Columbus might go defense now. I'm really thinking, because they're thin up the middle too. They need centers as well.
Yeah.
But they might go D. So
Yeah, that's what.
They got Werenski back healthy.
Right.
I assume that Zach is back. He's here in Detroit area in the summer rehabbing with the shoulder, but he'll be back. He's going to miss Seth Jones a lot, I'm going to tell you. Seth Jones, by the way, had 1 year left on his contract, and they didn't want to lose him like they lost Panarin and Bobrovsky 2 years ago, so that's why they made the deal for Seth Jones. What else was part of that deal? Do you know?
Adam Boquist.
Just one for one?
Just two.
They think a first-round draft pick is also going, and they think it's Chicago's for 2021. I've been checking the wire that it hasn't come out yet. But what is interesting about that is that Seth Jones, on Wednesday, when he can do this, I guess, because the 28th is when unrestricted free agency starts, he already has in place with Chicago an 8-year extension.
There you go. In case you might wonder what's that all about. If you belong to a team, they can sign you for 8 years. If you don't belong to a team and you're a free agent, they can only give you 7. So the reason for that trade for Chicago is now they own him. Before free agency, they can offer him an 8-year deal, and he's probably going to unload the truck big time.
Right, yeah.
Oh boy.
He's already agreed to it, and he signs it on Wednesday.
Wow.
Seth Jones.
What are you guessing? 8-8? 64?
No, I heard it was like 9.6.
Oh, my God.
Wow. I would like to.
And
be
we're
Seth
talking
Jones.
millions.
Well,
a year.
Chicago's got a lot of bars. They can afford it.
That'll buy you a lot of ginger ales, I'll tell you that.
Kidding. You could have Seth Jones
Well,
out
good
your
for him.
mind
I'm glad
if
Seth Jones is going to.
He's a great young player.
They got Jonathan, what's his name? The guy that lost the whole year. Not Kane, but
Taves.
Jonathan Taves going to be back. He's healthy apparently. He'll be back in Chicago. So that's got to be great for those guys who are in the back nine over there to rekindle what's going on in Chicago.
Right, and Duncan Keith now in Edmonton,
Right.
and so they a blue line core which was like almost ancient. People were saying Seth Jones is really going to be good.
Well, and Seabrook's gone. He's
Right.
injured so bad. they had to set him out. So their defense core is depleted, and with Seth Jones there now, that's a great acquisition for Chicago, and that changes a lot of what people need in the draft tonight, starting in a few minutes.
And that's what we see, and you don't know what every GM is thinking maybe they'll do down the line as well.
Well, Steve said yesterday, he said something interesting. Usually, now 32 draft boards, if you go in everyone's war room, most of the top 12 or so are about the same, might slot different. You might like a guy 3 or 4. He said if you go into the war rooms this year, he thinks they're going to be all over the road.
True.
Nobody knows what the other team's thinking or what they're going to do. So that's why it's really interesting. And Detroit at 6 seems to be in the magic spot where they really can't decide on a player because 5 teams are picking ahead of them, and and there's some good quality guys, but you could have 2 forwards, 2 defensemen go, and another defenseman or another forward, and I mean, then what do? Do you take the best player available, who could be the goalie? That's why I'm not giving up on the goalie. I'm not giving up.
I just won't give up, Art.
Don't forget that while all this is going on, these teams have been interviewing these players by Zoom or whatever you call it. Not in person, I guess the best way to put it. So they're getting a read off these young men to see what they're all about, how their training schedule is. They've done their homework with their coaches, their junior coaches, their college coaches, whatever it may be. So they're getting a feel for the individual, but it's not going to be in person like it was 2 years ago. It is over the phone. That's different, and that's why there'll be some surprises this year that probably weren't there 2 years ago.
Absolutely. All right, before we wrap things up, I know we got our 6th pick, but I want to give our 23rd picks as well quickly. So, Ken, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I've got a couple of names here, and one of the names that sticks out, and I don't know how to pronounce his name. Obviously, I'm a radio guy, I should learn this, but Aatu Ratu is a guy that was really high. He kind of slipped a little bit, but his stock at one point was pretty high. The Red Wings could go after him, and maybe another guy by the name of Cole Sillinger.
Okay. Art?
Well, I'll tell you, Aatu Ratu is going to be at the Summer Showcase playing. There's actually a couple of Red Wing prospects this week will be in Detroit, in Plymouth this year. Niederbach and Wallander are also going to be on Team Sweden, and so they're and depending on who the Red Wings pick, he could be in Plymouth next week as well. I think the guy that I like is Oscar Olsson, left winger. I think if he's there at 23, which is really 22, but they're going to announce that the Coyotes screwed up and they forfeited the 11th pick. So then they'll go to 12. So at 23, 22nd player taken. If Olsson's there, I think Steve nabs him.
Is he Freddie's son?
What?
You know if he's Frederick Olsson's son?
I don't know. I don't know. But Freddie Olsson was a good Red Wing for a brief period.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I have no clue who they're going to take at 22. I don't know who's available.
As far as I'm concerned, we have no idea who they're going to pick at 6, 23, but I'm going with Aatu Ratu as well. He was slated 2 seasons ago, which I think is too far in advance to give an estimate, but he was slated to go 1st overall. So it's really crazy to think that he's dropping down to the 20s. But hopefully the Red Wings will nab him at 23 if he's not already gone. But that is it for us. We will see who Steve Yzerman picks at pick number 6, and we will shortly be joined by Drew Miller after the 6th pick. I want to give a huge thank you to everyone here at the Detroit Red Wings Draft Party presented by Meijer. Give it up! Again, I want to hear you be loud and proud when you're aired on ESPN2, and I want to thank everyone at home watching. Tomorrow during the 2nd through 7th rounds, we will also be streaming starting at 10:30. Give a recap of today and talk a little bit about the prospects at hand tomorrow. So again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And thank you to Meijer for bringing this all to you guys. Let's go Red Wings on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Let's go Red Wings.
Love it. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you soon.
Enjoy the draft.
Welcome.